Hey everybody! First thing I want to do is apologize for the lack of video. We're going to do this in video radio, which means words without pictures, so non-video radio. We had a couple of issues that we weren't going to be able to sort out in time for this. And first thing I'm going to do is mute my Twitch stream so we all don't go insane. We've got four developers here with you. This is going to be an open Q&A session, so we welcome all of your questions. We'll answer as best we can. I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves. I'm going to start with someone that we usually don't get to hear from. We're going to start with Todd DeMille. He's our art director. Todd, introduce yourself and let everybody know what you do.
Hey everybody, my name's Todd DeMille. I'm the art director for Lotro. I have been for the last few years. I get to work every day with all these developers to bring Lotro to you. Look forward to giving you a little bit of insight into our day-to-day.
All right, and we'll let Matt go next, and then we'll have Trevor and then Aaron, since everybody knows Aaron.
Hi, my name's Matt Samiti. I'm the lead systems designer on Lotro. And basically, I oversee all the systemy stuff, like how much morale someone gets, or how difficult a particular section is.
And my name's Trevor McEwen. I'm known as Jinja on the forums. I am a system designer working under HorseDev. I work on classes, PBMP, and all that sort of fun stuff.
And Aaron.
Sure. Hi, I'm Aaron Rowan Campbell, executive producer for the Lord of the Rings Online. And when Todd said he's been around for a while, he means quite a while. I got onto this team on 2006, and I know Todd's been with Turbine significantly longer than that.
Yeah, that's true. I've been in my current role for the last few years. I've been at Turbine a little over 11 years now, actually. I started on Mio before launch and have moved around to other projects at Turbine over the course of that time. But I'm here now on Lotro as AD and am very happy to be here.
Somebody just clunked their head on a mic, it sounded like. A couple of people are commenting on, hey, where's the video? We don't have any video, and I apologize for that. We were trying to set something up so that we could do a whole physical round table, and we had some technical issues. If the video worked, the sound didn't. If the sound worked, the video didn't. So we figured the most important thing was for you to hear our answers and not necessarily see our gorgeous faces. So we chose this route. For those that don't know me, which would surprise me after so many of these live streams, my name is Rick Heaton, Sapiens. I'm the community manager for the Lord of the Rings Online, the resident lunatic. So we're going to jump right in. Todd, right off the bat, they kind of were ready for you, I think.
Uh-oh.
So this one's directed at you. I was wondering if you know why so many pieces of gear are made undyeable. Players love to customize their appearance, yet gear sets like the pre-order pieces, the Tower of Orthanc and Erebor sets are all undyeable. Why is that? Why do we have undyeable sets?
Well, we work closely with the systems team to ensure that the vast majority of things are dyeable, and honestly, it's kind of a love-hate relationship from the art side, because dyeability makes things challenging to design. The criteria for dyeability is that a visual majority of a design needs to be made of a material that can conceivably be any color. And in a world where so much is made of basic materials like leathers and metals for armor, sometimes that can feel a bit limiting for the designers. So, there is a bit of a love-hate relationship with it when we were developing it. But I think for the most part, the stuff that you find on the landscape is dyeable. There are times when we choose to keep something from being dyeable when it is representative of a particular culture. So, for example, pre-order armor, the Rohan armor that we did for pre-order, we wanted to make it green. And for that reason, it had the Rohan horse on it, a white horse on a green field. It was important to us to make sure that we didn't have white horses on pink fields and so on. So if there are things that are not dyeable that should reasonably be, those are bugs. I think that the things that we have kept from being dyeable are at a minimum. But JBug stuff, if you think it should be in, it's not.
Cool. Matt, you're up right off the bat, and I knew we were going to get one of these. What led to the creation of the essence system, the socketed items, and how is this intended to impact the game?
Okay, good. Love this question. So, every time we do a big release, we churn out a bunch of gear. It's mostly all handmade, and quite often, the the stats for some of the gear is what people want. The stats for other gear isn't what people want, and it finally got to a point where I decided that the best way for us to give people hopefully all the gear that they want is to let them fiddle with it and choose what stats go on what pieces. It's not going to completely take over itemization. Right now, there's only 5 different pieces of gear by body position that will have them, but they come in different rarities, which determines how many sockets they have in them. The essences cover 17 different total stats. Some of them that are more rare as essences might have an extra stat on them, and we think that this is really going to give players a lot of opportunity to fine-tune how they want to build their character out in terms of gear. So recently we made some changes to stat contributions, removing some mitigations from primary stats. This will allow players to backfill the spots that they're missing, and hopefully just have a much better experience of putting their character together the way they want.
Cool. Sounds like a really in-depth and robust system that it's going to take quite a while to master, and it sounds like there's a lot of room for flexibility. Is there going to be the possibility maybe of down the road we can have different sets, like if I'm performing one role and I want to socket these essences, and maybe later I'm performing another role, I want to socket those essences, or is this system not quite that robust yet?
Oh, it certainly is. I mean, if you find 2 different chess pieces that say have 3 sockets in them, you can put whatever out of those 17 stats into each one individually and keep both chess pieces, swap them out, or even all 5 pieces of gear. The point here is that if you really want to min max, you can do that. If you want to have a set that has different stats for when you PvMP versus when you're just on landscape, if you've got the inventory space, you're welcome to do it. I should mention that for update 14, it's a little bit of a soft launch. I wouldn't consider these to be dropping everywhere that we finally plan to have them drop. We want to see how the players actually use them before we go full bore. But they will be available in all sorts of different spots of the game. There'll be some of the really high-end stuff for endgame. There'll be a couple pieces you can pick up through, skirmish vendor. There's probably going to be the opportunity to pick up either essences or gear, even through things as simple as, going to a festival. We might just put one into rotation the next time, say we do the treasure hunt or the winter festival. So, the point here is that people should be able to get their hands on them, but we're going to take a little bit of time with keeping the faucet a little bit turned down just to see how they affect the economy and affect itemization before we go full bore.
And that is probably one of the best setups I've ever been given, because I have a question about the treasure hunt. When is the treasure hunt event going to be turned on this month? It's actually slated for next weekend at the moment. I don't believe that's going to change, but if it does, I'll let everyone know. But it is next weekend for the treasure hunt return. This weekend, by the way, if you haven't noticed, there's a 25% skirmish mark boost that is live on all worlds. And Eldar server actually has the winter festival turned on right now because they were the fastest team for Take the Hobbits to Isengard. So that's kind of the next few weeks worth of stuff. We're actually going to publish a full schedule of all of our weekend events here in the next week or two, so you'll know exactly what's being turned on what weekend. So, Matt, you mentioned something about if you have enough space. So let's take this question. What about additional or separate, actually, a vault or bank space for crafting materials, something that could be shared across all your characters on an account? Actually, we'll just throw that one open. You or Aaron or anyone that has an idea.
Well, I'll take that little gap of silence as time for me to pick it up. The dilemma with crafting gear in terms of having, say, like a wallet or an extra vault, if we went the wallet route, they're no longer real items anymore. So we'd need some way to translate them back. So you'd have some sort of middleman where you'd have to then go to a vendor and turn the things back into real items. We've considered it in terms of having a new a new vault type. But in terms of going across characters, it's certainly doable. Right now, though, we have shared storage, and a lot of people use that. So doubling down on that might be a bit confusing to some people. But if people really want to see crafting materials, get their own special treatment, we can certainly consider that.
And Matt, this is Aaron. I'll jump in there a little too. We definitely have plans for future inventory, more personal inventory for players, and I expect more shared inventory as well. And we'll roll that out over the coming months.
Ah, a little inside scoop there. So, one of the things that players have been asking about, Todd, by the way, right now the Twitch chat is absolutely going crazy with how utterly beautiful Lotro is. So,
thank you.
Some props for you.
A credit to the world builders and artists.
Yes, absolutely. And it's true. It's a fair statement. Every time we come up with an update, one of the first things I see is how beautiful the new areas are, and it's absolutely true. So, Trevor, we're going to throw you under the bus now. There's been a lot of talk about catapults in the Ettenmoors. What's the plan, man?
There's no concrete plan right now. It was mentioned as a cool idea, and we're definitely investigating it. But right now, there's no like catapult in the foreseeable future entering the Ettenmoors.
Oh, sorry, Jinja. I put that in my last producer's letter.
Yeah. No, I mean we've definitely talked about it, like the three of us internally, and we think it'd be a really cool idea to add some more strategic play to the Ettenmoors. But we kind of need to evaluate how we want to do it and how it's going to function, since the Ettenmoors is such a different space than big battles, and there's a lot more players and there's lag, and so if we do it, we want to do it right. But so.
All right, great. So here's a question we probably can't talk a lot about, but I think it's pertinent because players are kind of going to see hints about it if they go on to Boror. What additional details can we share about Beornings at the moment? And I know players, if you go in game right now, if you go on to the Boror server, you're going to see references to them in some menus and other things. They're not in Update 14. They're coming later. But what can we talk about now, Aaron?
Oh gosh, I almost think Trevor should be the guy to answer that one. He's the master of Beorn.
Yeah.
I just turned my head and saw he opened up the documentation.
Well, Beornings are people that turn into bear. No, just kidding. So, I mean, what do you want to talk about? We could talk about a little basic overview of what the class is and what it kind of does. Because we kind of talked to the Players Council about this in the past. So,
What about some? Are there any highlights of things you don't think the players have heard yet? Just interesting tidbits or ideas for skills, those kind of things coming up.
I mean, we can sort of talk in kind of vague generalities, I guess.
Yeah, Trevor, you can talk about like what the three different trees are kind of like.
Yeah. So the three different roles that the Beorning's going to be taking on is a tanking line, a damage line, and then what we're calling a support kind of line that kind of plays this role between being off heals and being kind of a crowd controller. And so the tank line is all about becoming a big bear and using abilities to kind of absorb damage, mitigate damage, save your allies, that kind of stuff. Whereas the damage line is all about managing your time between human and bear form to really optimize your DPS, getting damage over time rolling when you're building up your energy mechanic, and then cashing it out for big hitting instant damage. And the support line kind of uses this really interesting marking mechanic of having an offensive and a defensive mark. These marks will alter the Beorning skills in different ways and will also interact with each other in interesting ways. We can talk about that more down the road, but it's something we're pretty excited about. So,
all right.
And I'll actually just jump in real quick for those that don't know this. Like Beornings don't use power like our other classes do. They basically start out, walk into combat empty, and then as they use skills and of means, they then build up their sort of version of power, which is probably going to be called Wrath or something like that. And then when they want to turn into a bear, they hit it, but then it starts ticking down. So they have a certain amount of time to then, in bear form, cut loose, go nuts, and do some of the crazier stuff.
Cool. So it sounds like a lot of the concerns we've been seeing about players about where it's going to go kind of got some pretty good insights there about what kind of class we're actually talking about making the Beorning. But again, this is coming later in the year. So even if you see references to it in Update 14, please don't go looking to figure out where it is. And don't bug that it's not in the game. We know it's not in the game. It's not supposed to be at this moment.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it. And one other thing that I just wanted to mention is, we're really taking to heart the feedback that we've gotten over the trait trees since they came out in Update 12. And one thing we really want to provide, especially with the Beorning, is that every trait feels impactful, every trait feels transformative, and that you can really sort of customize your bear through your tree to your playstyle. So.
Nice, very cool. So, real quick question about Update 14 and Gondor in particular. We're taking our first steps into West Gondor with Update 14. What other portions of Gondor can we expect to see? Are we going to see more of West Gondor as we move forward in the year? Of course, the big question is, when are we getting to Minas Tirith?
So I'll take that one. This is Aaron. So West Gondor is only a starting point. This is our entry into Gondor. As I think I outlined in my producer's letter, but I'll kind of reinforce. Right, our next stop is East Gondor, which is really heading to Pelargir, which is currently under siege from the Corsairs of Umbar, and then moving up the river to Osgiliath, and ultimately we're talking about rounding out next year at the Siege of Minas Tirith. I mean, we're going right up into the big leagues here.
Wow. All right. So, and I'm just going to say I've seen some really early concepts, and I think everybody's going to be pretty blown away when we get there. It's looking really cool, even at this early stage. So everybody's just going to go train wreck themselves now that I've said that. But right now, one of the questions that I'm seeing flowing through a lot here, and Aaron, I know you and I have talked about this. About some server performance issues, and I know we're always looking at performance versus population versus latency. What kind of server related improvements are we looking at?
Sure. So I think I referenced a bit earlier in the year. We are definitely looking at ways to kind of join player populations or let players play with each other. And take advantage of some of the higher, output hardware that's in the environment now, right? Or, Lotro's not a young game, right? We launched in 2006. Technology has changed a heck of a lot since then, so we need to keep investing in it and build those really vibrant play spaces.
Cool. Yeah, I know you and I have had some conversations about things that are going on that front, and some of it sounds really cool. What our ops team is talking about and things that might be coming down the road. So I just kind of wanted to get that out there. Gift of the Valar, which actually was just on sale last week, and I think it's still available in the store. It caps at level 50. Have we given any thought to expanding that to 75 or maybe 80 or higher as the level cap is rising up there?
We consider it. Right now, we feel that we've got really great arc early game and a really great arc late game, and 50 is very much becoming like the center point of it. We get varied opinions in terms of people that want to play the game slower. We get people who would love to be able to just catch up to a friend for end game. Right now we've still got a couple little hitches to sort out with starting people at 50, but maybe down the road, we'll see. We've got a lot of decisions to make in terms of that offer. But right now, it drops you right out in front of Moria. We've recently done an update to Moria, so it plays much better. So we consider it. But 50 does seem like a pretty decent and compelling place to start right now, and people have enjoyed it. So I don't think we're going to change it anytime in the immediate future, but we always consider it.
And on a related note, regarding level 50 and Beornings, why did we choose to start Beornings at level 50? Why not a new starter zone, a whole 1 to 100 level run? Why start at 50?
Well, the challenge with having a game that is that started out pretty huge and continues to get more and more huge is that we really wanted to focus on getting the Beorning right and getting it out to players. And if we went back and started from level 1, then we'd be looking at people being able to play the Beorning probably in about a year and a half. It is a huge amount of work, and frankly, this class is it's a pretty advanced class. It's very interesting. While it can tank and do DPS and do some decent control, it's a light armor class. So someone I saw, one of the comments went by that they're probably going to be pretty mean in monster play. Or for monster players to face up against. Well, if you catch them in human form wearing just robes, that's probably the way to do it. So, we've got a lot of players that have gone through the opening experience a lot. We figured it'd be a good place, for someone who's got the game down, who really wants to try a challenging class, but be able to get to that end game, sometime in the near future.
So the obvious question then becomes, as we're talking about adding a new Freep class, what about new creep classes?
Well, we haven't added a new class in quite some time, but Jinja is the one working on this Beorning. He also has a pretty strong stake in PvMP, so we'll see how it goes.
All right. Here's a really good question. I know we've been talking a lot about epic battles and improving them and making them a little bit more exciting. How are we going about doing that with the epic battle system? I know some changes are going in with U14. What's coming up for the system?
Definitely. So you'll see a lot of small changes, individual changes in epic battles with the Update 14 launch. A lot of attention's gone into looking at basically sort of the solo duo combinations and smoothing those out, fixing bugs, making it feel better. But also some slightly more major gameplay changes, such as, for example, changing the contribution of the initial traits, so they have some more power. You can pretty much immediately get into the game and get rolling. I think we're giving you 4 contribution points as a starting point as well. Another piece there is changing some of the aggro mechanics. So in epic battles as they stand today, monsters have a goal, they go and attack that goal, that NPC, and the players are a little on the sidelines. Now, if you start pulling creatures that aren't engaged yet, they're going to focus on you and they're going to try to kill you. So you will definitely be more directly, immediately engaged and can divert individuals or large groups if you think you can survive it.
So basically now the story is, if you're going to grab a mob, be ready, because he's not going to run past you like he has in the past.
He's not going to let go, no.
All right, that should get some people's attention who aren't listening to the chat and do it the first time. Why is he coming after me? So one of the things I know we've been talking about a little bit, but really haven't gone into great depth with, is and my question just scrolled off as I'm saying this. I may have to slow down the chat on you guys. About the level caps that are coming. We're adding 5 levels now. We've got another 5 levels down the road. Some folks are saying that 1 is good, 2 may be too much. Have we ever considered maybe pushing off the second one, or maybe doing 10 in a block? Or level cap changes kind of are one of those things that one side is for and one side's against. What's our thinking on level caps? So
this is Aaron. It's feedback. It's feedback we want to hear, right? Part of setting this up is creating an arc that feels compelling and creating space for you to advance your character and advance the story. So ultimately, if the feedback is 2 level caps in a year is just too much, I think we'll pull back on it. But let's hear what you have to say and see how this next one goes.
So there you go. Basically, if you have feedback and opinions, please log on to the official forums, give your feedback, let us know how these 5 levels feel and how it feels to be level 100, and let us know, how you feel about going higher in the future. Another question we see asked a lot and is being asked again here in the chat is, what about group content? And group content takes many forms, from fellowship quests to small, medium, and large size instances. Are we planning on any group content this year in any form? And if so, what is it?
So Aaron, and I'll jump in on this one. So the short term, I think, and it's not exactly the question you're asking, but I'm gonna tackle it. The short term, you're going to see new group options for content in the Epic book. So we're going to have solo and group-based instances you can play through as part of the Epic story, and you can choose which one to do. We're going to have group content on the landscape out in Gondor, so an area much like Limelight Gorge that's really focused around group play and mechanics. And of course, we're going to continue to invest in epic battles. Now, looking later in the year, looking out into the future, I don't see a traditional raid cluster on the horizon, but we definitely are not abandoning groups by any means. I think we're going to continue to find new ways to build out different styles of play and different group play.
All right, I'm gonna plug Weatherstock right here because I have a person who very neatly merged his question in with a plug for Weatherstock. For those that don't know, Weatherstock is a great concert that happens every summer, and it is this Saturday, June 14th, on the Landreval server. I suggest you check it out if you never have before. I think you'll find out it's very, very cool. I am going to try and jump in on Saturday and try and stream some of it, starting probably around 11:30, 12 o'clock Eastern time. Maybe an hour, half hour of it, just so everybody gets a taste. But the question that's related to this is, the music system's a very unique system in Lotro. Do we have any plans to refine it or expand it or add to it in any way?
Todd, you want to take that one on?
In short, there's nothing that's formally on the calendar to expand the music system from the player's perspective. We're working more and more closely with our sound team, and there are some cool things happening with them. They just actually got a new facility in the building that's going to allow them to do more acoustic recording. So that's mostly for our scoring type stuff. We're actually working on getting a harp in for update 14. It's not a player playable instrument, but we want to have harps to support Dal Amroth, which is a Gondorian city that's known for harp music. It's certainly possible that stuff may be coming online, but as I said, there's nothing that's formally in the plans right now.
Todd, I'm just going to point out, you may not be aware, we actually have a player who goes by the name of Harperella.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
So somewhere there is a person screaming in a combined joy and agony over it not being playable, being in the game.
Well, it's the first step down that road. That's a system that we need to build out. If we're going to support it fully, and now that we've got a foot in the door, we'll see what happens.
So a question about Hobnanigans. I know we've just rerun it, and there were some problems and some issues. But what kind of thought have we given to either maybe reducing the cost of some of the rewards, or maybe setting up an exchange vendor that gives Hobnanigan tokens for the different chicken tokens? Maybe have some pretty high exchange rates, just so players can get their cosmetics and items quicker.
So we're certainly fine with that. I don't know that it'll make it in for 14. We've been experimenting a lot with really rare things that are tough to get, and I think the need for that as a piece of content goes down over time. But for the people that really get lucky or really like a piece of content, them getting stuff first, I think is okay. I don't think that we necessarily have to keep them. Those exchange rates that strict forever, but we do have to, from time to time, really experiment with these kinds of rates and put them out in the wild, not just on Bull Roarer, to get feedback on what is too rare, what is not rare enough. We have a lot of things that really could stand to be more rare, and so that was kind of a bit of an experiment, but we'll be looking at those exchange rates soon.
Nice. I'm gonna ask this question because it's so completely ridiculous, and I think it'll be a little fun. What's everybody's favorite Skittle?
Oh, Rick. I like it when I pull an M&M out of the Skittles bowl. That's what I like.
Oh, no.
Oh, you're a chocolate fan.
Yeah.
A Skittle hater.
Purple.
Purple is the most awesome flavor. I agree.
Mine's red all the way.
Starburst.
Wow, rebellious devs. Oh no. What about, I know, Matt, you had spoken at one point about the possibility of some updates for kinships, and I know Leo recently put in an update for kinships to increase the size of the message of the day, and that's in update 14. But what about other things down the road for kins?
So, one of the things I'd like to do is create a system wherein, kins have stuff to do all together as a group, not just as, a social hub for some of the group content we already have. And we're kicking around a lot of ideas, these are definitely not for update 14, but we got a couple designs floating around that maybe we could have something like deeds or weekly deeds that a kinship as a whole would go out and everyone would contribute to. But that's still in the early stages, but I think it would be a really cool way for those folks who have tight kins to be able to come together and all push forward for a supported goal rather than just sort of goals that they make up themselves.
Nice. So some hope for guys down the road a little bit. That's pretty cool. I think there's a lot of kins out there cheering right now that some stuff is coming. I know personally one of my big headaches was the message of the day, so I'm personally cheering that one. It's very hard to talk to your kin in 80 characters. What about Aaron? You had mentioned no classic style raids in the foreseeable future. But what about going back and revisiting some of the older raids and scaling them up, like the Isengard raids? Things like that.
Love the idea, but I'm not going to put anything on the plan right now.
All right. Now I have to scroll down because this chat's flying by pretty quickly. What are we doing to attract new players to the game? I can speak somewhat to some of that as I watch Jacob cringe over here in his seat a little bit. If you go out online and you look around, you'll notice there are banner ads. We do have a lot of advertising running around online. Trying to draw in new players. So it's not something that we're ignoring. It's something we're actively pursuing. Unfortunately, though, a lot of you may not see it because if you're already playing, we do try to kind of filter you out of some of that process. So it's people that aren't playing that are more likely to see it. If you do some searches on Lotro, though, you'll start seeing all sorts of crazy ads in your browser. Thank you, cookies. All right. Any thought given to making Hobnanigan fields smaller? Physically smaller.
I haven't, but if they are just too big, put in a bug. We'll take a look at it.
Yep, I'm seeing a couple of comments supporting this one. So we'll definitely make sure somebody puts in a bug if you think that's a change that needs to be made to Hobnanigans. All right, going back to the Essence system. Will we be able to extract set bonuses from prior sets and use them again via the Essence system? Oh, actually, it sounds like they're almost talking about deconstructing gear at this point.
The answer to that right now is no. We're keeping, for the time being, we're keeping stats and set bonuses separate. So if you have, an item set, it's not going to have sockets in it. If you have a socketed group of items, they're not going to have set bonuses in there, just for now, so that we can get everything down, and balanced, hopefully. But there's some talk in the future of doing essences with set bonusy type things, more procs and stuff like that. The plan right now, though, is if you've got a set that you really like, there's hopefully 6 pieces that can go into it, but if you have 5 of them, you get all the bonuses. So at the very least, you could swap in a socketed piece, still keep all of your set bonuses from the set, and still be able to tweak your overall stats. But as I mentioned earlier, we really want to get this out in sort of the vanilla form first. I don't want to shoot the whole thing out there and find out that it doesn't stand up. So for now, it's just going to be primary and secondary stats. We'll see how that flies. We'll do some balancing, and then we'll look to do some more exciting stuff with it.
Cool. Question about, and I'm going to say this wrong, and Pearson's going to come over here and yell at me. But question about Hootbold and the daily limit. Now that it's kind of older content, a little bit further back in the leveling curve, have we given any thought to possibly raising the daily limit so that you can get a completion a little bit more quickly?
This is Aaron. That sounds completely reasonable.
I hate it when you guys give super short answers while I'm looking for the next question. Drive me nuts. I was like, oh, this will be a good long question, but no. Yes, it just takes a moment. What about going back to some group content here? What about changing big battles to have a little bit more predictable reward structure? So instead of so random, how about adding, predictable drops and more armor and gear to epic battles themselves?
Okay, so one thing that we just plugged in pretty recently that should mitigate this somewhat, and we'll have to refine it a little bit after U14, but we've put in a system where at the very least it'll pay some attention to what you've gotten and make sure that you get a better rotation of different things, so you won't get 12 of the same necklace that is really not what you need. It'll move through the loot table a little bit better. This is definitely on our radar. And we're making systemic changes, and pretty much every release we'll probably tweak it a little bit till we get it right. But some folks should get in there. Let us know what kind of gear you're actually getting, and we'll just continue to go under the hood with the spanner and the hammer and keep banging at it till we get it right.
Staying with the whole concept of gear and better gear and more gear, since we're going to level 100, obviously creeps are going to level 100 as well. Moors is going to level 100. What about level 100 PvMP gear, cloaks, LIs, armor, all the stuff that comes along with the level cap? What can we expect?
So we were actually just talking about that this morning. Typically, in the past, we've offset it by, like a part of an update so that the level bump comes out, people level up, and then the gear becomes available. We're thinking about instead just releasing all the gear at this level bump when update 14 comes out, but we haven't made a final decision on that quite yet. It seems like a lot of people would like us to do that, so.
What about going with, I like this idea. This would actually be really funny. We could make a really tiny Hobnanigans field for this. What about 1v1 Hobnanigans?
We tested it. It was not as much fun as one might think.
Ah. See, sometimes I think our crazy ideas we've actually had first. All right, let me see. Wow, we really sidetracked people with the Skittle answers. Wow. Are the new regions going to have daily repeatable solo quests to earn reputation and reputation barter currency for the new region? Because Western Rohan doesn't currently have that. Will West Gondor have it?
So in West Gondor, you're going to see a couple things. You'll certainly see tasks as an option. You're going to see some new styles of deeds. You're also going to see repeatable quests that can help you drive reputation across the region. So that should be in.
Nice. So that's another quick yes answer. You gotta stop doing that.
Sorry, I'll try to stop saying yes, Rick, if it makes you feel better.
No, because
no, there are no new quests,
no, see, that's
and we
even
don't
shorter.
support reputation at all.
That's even shorter. That would be worse. Since we're going to be level 100, obviously first stages are going to come along. What kind of mechanic is going to be required to earn first stages? Or are we going to scale legendary items? I'm pretty sure this is a new first stage question.
I'm going to hang on to that question for now. We've got them. We're tinkering around with drop rates and where. I don't want to say anything because we haven't quite made a final decision. We'll probably make it next week. But they're out there.
All right, great. Going back to the new class coming, there's been some concern that a lot of players actually already have 17 characters on a server, so they're already maxed out in the number of characters they can have. Are we planning on offering additional character slots per server?
Yep.
That's even worse than yes.
I did that on purpose.
Oh my goodness. So yes, definitely. We will be adding the ability to have more character slots per server. Probably, I'm guessing, closer to when we actually release the class. You can throw another yup in there if you want.
Yep.
Yup. And now we're talking about chicken hockey. Question for Trevor. Would you consider adding an item that helps people find each other in the Ettenmoors, like a flare? Because that sounds like it would be a really fantastic idea to set off a flare in a war zone.
Are you talking about just like for finding like stealth people on the other team, or just finding your friends just to signal a flare in the air?
I think it's a friendly question, not necessarily locating an enemy, just so that players can find each other to get together, so they're not kind of lost wandering in the wilderness and getting ganked.
I mean, we could look into it. We never thought about it before, but if that's if you guys want to fire off flares as like a battle cry, we could figure that out. So, but yeah, we could think about it.
All right, and while we're on the topic of the Ettenmoors, how do we think that Essence system will affect the balance in the Moors?
It'll probably mess it up for a little while. I have no doubt there. You know, we're trying to keep this system as open as possible in its first incarnation. Whenever you do that, you know, you're basically asking for players to push the envelope and really show you in a much better way than you could ever test internally exactly what can be done. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are some fringe builds that are that are pretty rough. Then again, they may not. You know, and I don't want to say like we have no projected, you know, understanding of how the system works. But you know, players in the wild always find things that you don't. One of the things with the system, I wanted to make sure that we didn't corner any of our options in its first incarnation. If something is totally off the chain and making it uncool to play in the Moors, then we'll fix it. But we're gonna wait and see how it is. You know, we've done a lot with our stats to try to make each one of them a bit more valuable over the last few months. And so if someone, you know, stacks one stat and that's it, hopefully you'll be able to find where their weakness is and exploit that instead.
All right, while we're talking about strengths and power and ability and upgrading things, legendary item question. Any thought to changes in the system, adjustments, tweaks, maybe a different kind of system going forward? What's the future of LIs?
Yep. We think about this a lot. You know, it's part of a much larger debate in terms of, you know, design and what the game means. And I can say that we talk about it a lot. I can't give any more details on that. You know, any updates to legendary items would be a major undertaking, and so it's the kind of decision that that we can't, you know, make a snap judgment on. But the actual question was, are there any thoughts about it? And that I can certainly say yup to.
So that was like a really long yup.
I'm trying to be helpful.
Good, because I'm scrolling through all this stuff.
So thinking but not committing to anything. It's definitely in the thought process phase right now.
Actually, Aaron, you make a great point. A lot of times in these chats, you know, we'll say things like, we've considered, we're thinking about, we've talked about. Please, everyone, understand that that's exactly what we're doing, thinking about them, talking about them, considering them. It doesn't mean we're rushing out and changing them. But it is an example of how many different types of conversations go on around here about various things. We do see what you're commenting on in the forum. We do hear your feedback, and it does spawn discussions. It doesn't always mean that we go down that path, but pretty regularly we do talk about a lot of the same things you guys are talking about. Question about Beornings. Hot topic today. Male or female, or strictly male?
Both.
Both? You'll be able to play as a male or female Beorning? And race of man exclusively?
Yes.
Yes.
All
and
right.
to fill in one of the things, I've seen it go by a couple times. We are looking into being able to customize how you look as a bear. The full variety of that I can't really speak to yet, but all Beornings in bear form will definitely not look the same.
I have a suggestion I want to champion that just scrolled by. In future Hobnanigans updates, can we play as the chicken?
Interesting.
That would be fun.
Very
I think it should be a
interesting.
dev-only option.
Why do I see the next April Fool's Day coming together already?
Yep.
Oh, but it has to be a dev-only option. We can go in and be the chickens. I think that
Ginger.
would go
No.
only players, and we can go in and play with them? Okay.
Something like that.
I'm sure there's some PvMPers out there that would love for me to be the chicken for a game of Hobnanigans.
I'm probably higher on that list than you are. I'm probably a lot higher on that list. What about scaled freeps in the Moor? There seems to be a lot of, frankly, farming going on with scaled creeps. Any plans on how to mitigate that or things to address that kind of behavior?
I mean, I think CS has already talked about in the past, like their stance on rank farming and that kind of stuff, and we don't really want to punish the larger part of the community for a couple of, bad apples. But um, I mean, if someone's intentionally doing it, then you can always report them. And otherwise, on the other end, we're trying to make scaled freeps a little bit more powerful so that they don't just become frontline fodder. So
Nice, yeah. But the customer service team has a really great post in the forums regarding all of our decisions around rank farming and things like that. Feel free to jump in there and review it. If you haven't seen it before, it's in the general forums, and I think it may also be in the support forums. So, Matt, we've got a really cool question. Actually, we kind of got two that go hand in hand. So I'll ask the second one first. With the new Essence system, is this going to apply to all gear or just specific new pieces of gear in the new regions? Or is this something that's going to go back and you'll find it at level 10? Or is it strictly 95 plus?
Okay, so I was actually just talking to the principal designer on that a little earlier today. It looks like, in its first run, once again in a sort of controlled sense, it'll start at about level 50. Once again, that magic sweet spot. There'll be different tiers of essences. There'll be different armor to put on. It's not going to replace all armor. It's only going to be 5 pieces. Some of the nicer stuff is attached as rewards for some of the newer content, but you can find this stuff just on the ground somewhere in Mirkwood if you get lucky as well. So we're going to see how it goes from 50 to cap. That's where a bunch of our players are and are really pushing the envelope of play. Maybe in 14, but probably later we'll scale it down probably till about level 10. I can't imagine a 5th level character being that happy with finding a piece of gear with empty sockets, considering they're going to be level 10 in a few minutes. But yeah, we hope to get it down to about level 10 as a starting point. But for now, I would bet on 50 plus.
And the second half of that question is, how do these relate to legendary items? In the future, might we see an Essence slot in an LI?
I think I'll rewind to my previous answer, which is we think about LI a lot. Part of coming up with a new system like this that is not integrated with LI is to see how it plays. I personally think it's simpler and a bit less grindy than LI, but I think a lot of things, and then I find out that I'm wrong once we release it. So we'll see how this system works in its first couple incarnations, and then we'll look elsewhere and see if we can improve anything else.
All right, I have a request for Todd, and I've seen this request in a number of places regarding festival rewards.
Yes, sir.
Dresses. Players would like
dresses.
new dresses.
Yeah.
Mostly dwarves, but dresses.
We've been trying to come up with the right balance of festival rewards that are usable and desirable by a broad cross section of the players, that's sustainable. And we kind of collapsed the separate tunic pants male reward and the female dress reward into the robe reward, with the presumption that it's more gender neutral and we can get 2 for the price of 1. We can look into whether or not we can include dresses in our festival rewards. We started approaching them in a little bit different way, instead of designing all the different pieces independently of one another with unique designs per festival, related but relatively unique designs per festival. Trying to do them in a way that takes advantage of coming up with an established pattern and a few motifs that we can then apply across a variety of different cosmetics. So your robe, your cloak, your caparison. We'll see what we can do about dresses, though.
All right, and we're going to try and wrap this up, so I'm only going to take a couple more questions. We actually went over a little bit on the time we'd originally allotted for this, but I do want to get a couple of questions in that I saw that were really good. For starters, with U14, for those who are purchasing the quest pack, and again, U14 is free to VIPs. For those who are purchasing the quest pack, is each area an individual purchase, or is it one U14 quest pack that covers all 3 areas?
That would be one U14 quest pack.
All right, so one purchase, one time you get all 3 areas. Great.
Yes.
Going back to essences for a moment, Matt, when you want to remove an essence from a piece of gear you've got, does it destroy the gear, or can you swap essences in and out? I guess the question is, are they like LIs? In order to get stuff back out of them, do you have to destroy the gear they're slotted in?
We are going to have an item that is, kind of like a relic removal scroll. It'll be available on the store, but it's also going to be available in game. It's a rare drop, but people can go find it, and we'll tell people, what content to go to if they really want to go for it. The main point here isn't that, essence gear is going to supersede all other gear. So, optimally, you'll be able to find enough of these items. It's more about customization than crazy rarity. A lot of what this gear is supposed to replace is things that you would normally get by doing quests, or would normally get as a cool drop in an instance. So, if we get it right, one thing to note is that these essences aren't bound. I think the gear will probably be bind on equip. So, you should be able to, even if you don't find something, trade with a friend, have a kinmate put together a piece of gear for you, go to the auction house, find essences, find gear, because until you actually put it on, it won't be bound. I really want to make sure that we have a strong economy around these and that people can find what they're looking for. So yeah, it's, there is the means to do that, but I'm not sure it's going to feel as necessary as it does in LI to get relics back that you've worked crazy amounts to get leveled up.
All right, and last 2 questions really quick. There was a question about, instead of revamping the current Gift of the Valar to go beyond 50, what about adding an additional item that will take you from 50 to 75? Somebody really wants to get to 75. I keep seeing the same question.
Yeah, I see it too. We'll consider it. For right now, it's still kind of in its infant phase, and we're still getting a lot of feedback on it. But once you make a 50, it's not that much harder to get you to 75. So we'll see.
All right,
and Rick, I want to step back to the region question just for a second.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about West Gondor, we're talking about 3 areas, so Blackroot Vale, Lamadon, and Belfalas, but we're also talking about Paths of the Dead and Dol Amroth. So there's a lot in there.
Right. So it's 3 areas, but there's really kind of 5 iconic locations. To put it that way. Nice. And Paths of the Dead, I'm sure, is probably going to light up the chat here. It's kind of funny watching this because they are about 60 seconds behind us. So we say something, and then I try to read the chat, and about 60 seconds later, it all vanishes as they start talking about something we mentioned. So I wanted to grab one more. I have to scroll back now and find it, but there was one more really good question that was about the Ettenmoors. Here it is. Scaled characters in the Ettenmoors.
Mm-hmm.
Will there ever be an instance where scaled characters will also get, I'm guessing, skill points to spend? So, when you scale up now, you don't get any of your skill points, any of your trait points to spend. Is that something we're considering doing so that they're a little bit more even with actual level 95s and 100s?
It's something we've talked about. There's still a bunch of different areas of a character being scaled when he enters the Ettenmoors that puts him at a disadvantage compared to his enemies and his allies. We're going to kind of weigh the pros and cons of the different solutions, and that was definitely something that was mentioned. Whether or not we do it is still up in the air. But
yeah, there's something definitely to be said for the time and the effort that's been put in to do the full leveling path and really kit out and customize your character.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of your days to come and do this. I'm sure the players really appreciate it. I know everybody's got to kind of get back to what we were doing and build all this cool stuff we've been talking about. I also want to thank everybody in the chat for your great questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to everyone's questions. There's a whole lot of you and only 5 of us, and we can only read and talk so fast. But we'll do this again next time. I promise we'll do it with video, since I've seen a couple of comments about people wanting to see whether or not we're lying to them when we tell them that Aaron and Matt kind of look like clones.
Twins.
It is kind of scary, but yes, they actually do. So thanks again, everybody. We really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Todd.
Yeah,
Trevor,
no problem.
Aaron, really appreciate it.
And did see the comments on hairstyles. Did see the comments on cosmetic weapons. We're gonna put them in the hopper, and we'll see what we can do.
Awesome. Anything else anybody wants to comment on really quick before we let everybody go and call it a day? Nobody's going to
14 coming soon.
Update 14. I was waiting for someone to retract their Skittles comment after seeing all the Mike
I was
Knight
about to
comments.
reiterate that red Skittles are the best Skittles.
Yeah, a lot of people in the chat agreed with you. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Once again, thanks for coming. Have a great day. Update 14 on Bull Roarer now. We hope to see you in game and for the next chat. Take it easy.